Number 9, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Does she stand by her statement, "I am satisfied that all the contract funding to partnership schools will be spent on meeting the contracted outcome for each school, which is to deliver educational achievement"?
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
Mr Speaker, yes, I do stand by my full statement, which I gave in this House in February last year, that I am satisfied that all the contract funding to partnership schools will be spent on meeting the contracted outcome for each school, which is to deliver educational achievement. In exchange, partnership schools get greater flexibility to raise student achievement, are subject to a higher degree of scrutiny, and have greater accountabilities than schools in the mainstream system.
Supplementary question, Mr
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
How can she claim that the funds being given to partnership schools are being used for education when Hipuna Marama Trust received $3.9 million in government funding to the end of last year, yet their audited accounts show they only spent $1.4 million on education, leaving $2.5 million unaccounted for?
Honourable Hiki Parata.
Mr Speaker, I think that the member is quoting selectively from the accounts. So the first distinction to make is that Hepuna Marama is a trust that is the sponsor of Te Rerenga Parawa, Whangareiki Te Rerenga Parawa, and that is only one of the entities that it is responsible for. It also is responsible for 5 to 6 early childhood centres. It also runs an academy, and it is responsible for delivering outcomes. And I'm happy to read to the member the 100% of NCEA 1 achievement that school delivered. I'll need to find the specifics, something like 93% for NCEA 2, which is what they are contracted to deliver to educational achievement, at nearly 100% on all 3.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Does she think it is a good use of taxpayers' money to provide Hipuna Marama with a grant of $1.8 million to set up a school, given they leased a premises that the accounts show is only costing them $68,000 a year?
Mr Speaker,
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
I'm very happy to answer that question, because the member has failed to grasp for some considerable amount of time that partnership schools are set up on a different funding basis. It is cashed up based on the inputs. Good, are we all following along here? Yes. So it is based on the inputs that we fund schools and is benchmarked against decile 3. But I can see the opposition actually doesn't want the intrusion of facts on their shouting. So that is what happens with partnership schools. We take the formula provided for mainstream schools, we benchmark against decile 3, we cash it up, we provide it with a contract. That contract is specific and public, and then we report the outcomes. And perhaps the opposition would like to shout with glee for the number of kids who've gotten great education qualifications that otherwise they may not have gotten.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
If the partnership schools are indeed cashed up, as the Minister explains, where has the extra $2.5 million that Hipuna Marama were given to run a partnership school gone?
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
Mr Speaker, a number of the partnership schools have been leasing properties while they prepare to build. That is the case in the particular school whose accounts the member is selectively quoting.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How is it fair that charter schools are being allowed to make multi-million-dollar surpluses or have multi-million-dollar amounts unaccounted for, while just down the road, students and teachers are having to put up with classrooms that are increasingly covered in black mould, and other schools throughout New Zealand where parents are being asked to subsidise their kids' education that the law says is supposed to be free?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
It is quite inaccurate for the member to suggest that their funds are unaccounted for. They're accounted for. The member just doesn't like the way they are using their funds. They have a long-term contract. They have cashed up inputs based on the same benchmarking. They have all made different choices, which this House has heard about before. Vanguard, for instance, has put over 50% of their funding into the employment of staff. Other schools have made choices about leased versus purchased properties. In the end, our interest is to ensure the well-being of the students and the education quality they are delivering. That is what the annual reporting represents.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
How many months has it been since she gave the Whangaruru Charter School 1 month's notice? And given the Prime Minister's statement that if charter schools failed, the government would be quick to close them down, why is that school still operating?
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
Mr. Speaker, because both the operation of natural justice, because of their contract, I gave them a month's notice, during which time I commissioned a review by Deloitte and the Education Review Office. No, I gave them that in March, and that report... Yes, if you'll just follow along with me, I'll explain the process. So then I commissioned... Then I commissioned a report by Deloitte and by the Education Review Office, which I have received, and now I am in a process with that school working through it.
Question number 10, Brett Hudson.